Hello and welcome to the Three Wise Metalheads. With me today on the Wisdom panel is Bipro from Albatross, our guest wise man, Mr. Sahil, the Demonstealer himself. I am P-Man, and today Shezan is not here because he's injured from his practice MMA fights. So representing Shezan is this fighter pen, क्योंकि fighter हमेशा जीतता है. So earlier in April, Rolling Stone India had an article out which was about OML, India's premier artist management and events company, dropping around 95% of bands from its roster. And they chatted with some of the bands who were dropped and had a chat with Mr. Vijay Nair, the CEO of OML.
I can't say I'm surprised by it, and I already knew about it beforehand through some insider sources, but it didn't come as any shock to me. My thought process is basically OML is a company, and as a company it needs to grow. Now, unfortunately, even though they had a lot of good bands, their ability to earn from these artists is very limited. And for a company that needs to keep growing and has salaries to pay, office rents to pay, and limited resources to do that with, the bands were obviously not making enough money for them. Which at the end of the day, given that OML went head on into comedy, somewhere something has to suffer or be cut off. They know comedy is where the money is at, and they know that music is not where that's happening anymore, or not enough for them at least, you know.
Since I love indie music so much, and I'm at every indie show all the time, I don't give a fuck. But maybe the question to ask is, how many metal bands were there in this roster?
None.
That's all I think of.
What do you think this does for the whole music scene in general?
It is discouraging, I would think. I mean, I feel, if I really have to feel something, I feel bad for these guys. Yeah? I mean, maybe they thought, oh, now we have a proper management, we are going to go places. But it is rather discouraging. That this one little line कि यार music में पैसा नहीं है, comedy में है, comedy में डालते हैं. That is, I don't know, disheartening maybe.
I guess it's the way of life, man. I mean, I think for a lot of these artists, maybe this is a good thing for them, where they kind of get to take over what they should have been doing anyway, you know. See, the way I see it, management is only really required if you are doing so much work where it's actually taking up from your creative time. For most bands, that's not the case, you know. The idea is a lot of bands want management to suddenly make them superstars overnight, or suddenly I'll get like tons of gigs, and I don't know if that's actually the case. I don't think that it actually works like that.
Couldn't put it better. That's exactly what I was thinking. Do as a band, as a band, do we really need? Are we such rock stars that we need management?
I think now what's going to happen is this is going to take us back to the days when there was no management, there was no OML and everything, and the bands would do things themselves. It was more DIY. I see that DIY coming back now. When we started out, we made things happen. There was nothing over there. There was one venue, and we made things happen. We threw gigs in Marimba or a bloody banquet hall in Goregaon or someone's terrace. That's how we made our gigs happen. I think this is going to take us back to those times now.
In a way, the closing down of, say, a Blue Frog, and then you start like, shit, there are no venues left. Maybe that was a blessing in disguise, and somebody just decided to get up, pull up the socks and say, fuck it, we'll go back to those wedding halls in Goregaon and Borivali, because at the end of the day, we were still having fun there. There's still gigs happening. It's not as maybe comfortable as a Blue Frog, but fuck that.
I don't think DIY ever left, actually. You know, it's just that for some it became an option to you know, DIY or sign with OML. OML was born from the indie scene. OML was probably the top of the food chain in that space, but they've sort of left that open now, if you ask me. So this is definitely not going back to DIY, but it probably opens up avenues for other companies. I think maybe there'll be more smaller players coming into the space right now, you know, because see, good management can never be disregarded, and management is not just getting bands gigs, and I think that is what people forget, because people think, oh, management matlab Giggsy Mela. That's not the case. Management is fixing and improving every aspect of your band, right from what you do in the studio, to your photographs, to your live shows, to the business deals they crack for things. So in that respect, management can work for bands that have the potential. So I think that is something that is going to be probably a little more focused now. You know, when we talk about management, it's not just going to be "Arey, get me a gig" kind of thing.
Some of the statements made by some of the bands who were dropped from OML lists. The frontman of Swaratma, Mr. Vasu, who said basically we saw that OML has been quite busy with a lot of bands and lately their focus has shifted towards comedy and mostly EDM, and we felt that we were not one of the main bands.
That's exactly what he said.
If you are signed with a management agency, do you only work with them if their priority is on you?
I think that's something, you know, you have to take a call on as a band, because do I want to only work with people who are going to focus on me as their priority? Then I need to be the biggest fish in that pond, you know. But do I also just enjoy the benefits of that tag that, Arey, these guys are an OML artist? You know, it's the sad part. It's the sad part of life that you might be signed with a big artist management agency, record label, booking agent, anything. If you are a small band, you will be down the priority list. At the end of the day, the highest bread earner is the priority, and that's never going to change. So some bands will say, fuck it, I don't want to be on a big name company, I'd rather be with a small name company but be the priority, and that's a call that every band has to take.
It's going to be a very interesting time where now I think all these musicians and artists and bands will have to kick themselves on the behind and say, let's work 200% harder and let's make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. So let's keep our eyes and ears open and check out some new interesting developments happening in the scene.